An activist is calling on President Salva Kiir to call for regular meetings of the presidency to discuss the speedy implementation of the revitalized peace agreement. The International Monetary Fund says it is satisfied with spending of its $225 million grants to the government of South Sudan. And traditional chiefs in central Equatorial State will now receive monthly salaries from the state government. These stories and more coming to you in this news bulletin with me, Yar Ajak Deng, and now the news in detail. A prominent civil society activist is calling on President Salva Kiir to convene the regular meetings of the presidency to discuss the speedy implementation of the revitalized peace agreement. Edmond Yakani, who heads the Community Empowerment for Progress organization, says the implementation of the 2018 peace deal is slow and needs attention of the presidency. My colleague Okot Emmanuel has more.
The peace government is yet to explore all possible avenues to provide the needed resources, including funds and food, to complete the training of forces for the unified national army. Other outstanding issues include need for the parties to resolve issues concerning the unified command and control structure and force ratio. According to the implementation matrix of the peace deal, many provisions should have been implemented by now. Multiple reports suggest that most of the ambitious reforms have not been initiated or completed. In May 2019, the pre-interim period was extended by 6 months after the SPLM-IO leader Dr. Riek Machar requested for more time to implement key parts of the security arrangements. At the end of the 6 months, they again extended the pre-transitional period by 100 days. It ended in February 2020 when President Salva Kiir appointed Dr. Riek Machar and other vice presidents, which mark the beginning of the 3 years transitional period. But 2 years after the presidency and the cabinet were formed, the unified army is not yet deployed as their graduation has been postponed several times. Edmond Yakani is now appealing to President Salva Kiir and his deputies to meet regularly to discuss obstacles hindering the implementation of the peace agreement. He spoke on the Dawn Show earlier today.
The regular meeting of the presidency, which is headed by the president, and then deputized by first vice president and other vice presidents, is a platform of a continuous, of what the president described as sustainable dialogue. That mechanism need to function. And who is supposed to call that mechanism? It's His Excellency President, supposed to regularly call for that mechanism. Because why? Any decision that comes out of that mechanism, it's a decision that the presidency have agreed, and it's a South Sudanese political party's decision that is binding upon everybody's opinion. I'm calling for a regular meeting. You can sanction the clusters for this meeting. This meeting is supposed to have a timeline, and you can sanction the clusters to it, because it's a meeting where you can reach consensus, and nobody can escape responsibility like the way how I escape responsibility of the decree by saying, no, this decree is unilateral, is not a decision of consensus making, the one of relinquishing the positions of the Deputy Chief of Staff and Deputy IGP. It's a question of the mechanism of the presidency. You need to have a regular meeting.
Reporting for iRadio News, I am Okot Emmanuel.
Thank you, Okot, for that report. The International Monetary Fund has commended the government on how it spent the grants given to South Sudan more than a year ago. This is according to the IMF Mission Chief for South Sudan, Mr. Nico Hobdari. An IMF team headed by Mr. Hobdari concluded an 11-day visit to South Sudan to assess how the government had spent the Rapid Credit Facility grants within 15 months. The International Monetary Fund had granted Bank of South Sudan $225 million for economic reforms and to stabilize their exchange rates. IMF mission chief says they were contented with the achievements of the Bank of South Sudan in stabilizing the markets. Mr. Abdari noted that the reforms introduced by South Sudan government since March last year has brought yet stability in the markets. He spoke in a press conference in Juba.
It's been a very productive mission for us. We're encouraged by economic reforms in South Sudan. Since we re-engaged more closely with South Sudan about 1.5 years earlier, I would like to emphasize the exchange rate reforms that have been introduced since March last year. They have brought stability in the exchange rate market. They've reduced prices over the last 12 months. And we've discussed with the minister and the governor how to sustain those gains and those achievements and to make sure that stability is maintained.
For his part, the governor of central bank says the bank would work to sustain what he has been achieved for so far. Moses Makur says the bank will intervene in the foreign exchange markets to stabilize the exchange rate.
So what is important is how to continue with these reforms and maintain the stability that has been achieved since March last year. What is important is to sustain the intervention of the bank in the foreign exchange market to stabilize exchange rate and therefore value of the South Sudanese pound. That is the main target now. We will watch out for any eventual challenges, and we will be in a close collaboration with the IMF team in Washington and IMF team here in Juba.
The central bank currently auctions $5 million weekly to the commercial banks and forex bureaus with a view to stabilize the markets. Traditional leaders in central Equatoria state will now receive monthly salaries from the state government. The state information minister has announced. According to Mabe Andruga, the paramount chiefs will earn £12,000. £11,000 for the head chiefs, £8,000 for the executive chiefs, and £7,000 for sub-chiefs. Central Equatoria Minister of Information Mabe Andruga Saberio briefed the media houses about the emoluments of the local chiefs in the states.
Tentatively, they calculated public service, and up to here, the head chief would get 11,000. Executive chief will get 8, sub-chief gets 7, and retainer sergeant major gets 5,000, and the sergeant gets 3,500, and the corporal gets 3,000, and then with the what do we call the lance corporal is 2,500. The private is 2,000, while the court clerk gets 5,500.
You are listening to iRadio Afternoon News. President Salva Kiir has directed the National Security Service and BRL law firm to make public a classified information on the root causes of the 2013 and 2016 conflict. Kiir says this is to make the implementation of the Peace Act genuine. Kiir says transparency of the genesis of the conflict and telling the truth is important for genuine reconciliation in the country. He directed the National Security Service and BRL law firm to declassify all information about the genesis of the conflict in their possession, including intercepted audios and personal accounts. Kiir made the remarks during the address to the nation yesterday.
For the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement to be genuine, we need transparency on the root causes of the conflict. It is for this reason that I am directing the National Security Service and its partner, the BRL law firm, to declassify all information about the conflict's genesis in their possessions, intercepts, audios, and personal accounts. This is very important so that the people of South Sudan know the truth and judge for themselves from the position of this knowledge. We must say the truth because genuine reconciliation has its basis on it. This will also support the process of healing in our country.
President Kiir assured those who will be implicated in the report of a presidential pardon.
Having said that, I need to state clearly that those who may be implicated by the declassified information that is going to be released are guaranteed presidential pardon. So there is no cause for alarm over this. All we are interested in is for the public to know the truth about the background of the conflict in our country. I hope after the release of this information, we can all move forward with permanent peace building that will create harmony and prosperity in our country.
And finally, before the international news, UN agencies are calling on the government to protect humanitarian workers and vital life-saving food commodities destined to people in dire need. My colleague Lau Nelson has a report.
The call came after a commercial convoy of 44 trucks carrying WFP food assistance came under attack from armed gunmen between Gadiang and Yui in Jonglei State on 24th March. 3 people were reportedly killed and 1 was wounded in the attack. Speaking to iRadio on Monday, WFP acting country representative Adeinka Badeo said it is the responsibility of the government to ensure safety of humanitarian workers and unhindered humanitarian access.
The current communication is really to the government of national unity and the responsibility to, ensure safety and security for all citizens of the country, including the humanitarian community that are here to assist the most vulnerable people. As you know, it's quite a challenge in the country, and we fully understand that. But there are certain areas of the country where it is known that the level of insecurity is quite high, and therefore added efforts should be made in these locations to ensure safety and security for the population. We are passing through once in a while to provide support to people, but then there are communities that live there that are also under threats, at risk, etc.
For his part, Jamal Arafat, UNHCR representative in South Sudan who doubled as interim UN resident and humanitarian coordinator, said
that as a matter of principle, we have a general agreement with the government of South Sudan guaranteeing the safety of humanitarian personnel and in particular humanitarian convoys. This is part of South Sudan's commitment to our presence in the country in general, but it has also been reaffirmed on two occasions by the President himself in 2016 and in 2017. So the general framework is very much guaranteeing our assistance. And I would also say that certainly the people and the government of South Sudan have an interest in protecting us.
Jamal also reiterated calls on the government to investigate each incident where humanitarian workers and cargo have been targeted. He says targeted attacks on humanitarian convoys carrying food assistance to the needy is affecting the generosity of the donors.
South Sudan, as we know, is a country with high humanitarian needs. At the moment, some 8.9 million people out of a population of just over 12 million are estimated to be in need of humanitarian assistance. The humanitarian assistance that flows into South Sudan is massive. It's over $1 billion every year, and that doesn't even begin to meet 100% of the needs. When this supply of this humanitarian assistance is threatened, and when it appears that the perpetrators who threaten it go unpunished, this naturally affects the delivery of the assistance. It affects the confidence and the morale of those who are doing the delivering, and it also affects the actions and the generosity of the donors who may not feel that it is worth spending their money in such an insecure environment.
Jamal believes bringing the perpetrators to justice and ensuring respect for humanitarian operations will ensure all agencies the ability to effectively assist the people of South Sudan. Under the international humanitarian law, all parties must allow and facilitate rapid and unimpeded passage of impartial humanitarian relief for civilians in need and must ensure the freedom of movement of humanitarians. Reporting for iRadio, I am Lo Nelson.
Thank you, Lo Nelson, for that report. And now approaching stories making headlines in the region and international scene. My colleague, Emmanuel Joseph Akile, joins us.
1, 2, 3. 1 million. 2 million.
Yes! Yes, it's time to celebrate. MTN 2 million. MTN has reached over 2 million customers and still counting. Are you? With over 2 million subscribers, why won't you trust MTN?
To enter the draw, get an MTN SIM card today and get free 10 minutes every day for 3 months and 500 MB every month for 3 months. And on top of that, qualify to enter a draw to win 2 million SSP cash.
Sabi, what are you waiting for? Buy an MTN SIM card today and get to win 2 million SSP. Yes, when MTN says 2 million SSP, it's 2 million for one lucky Junubin. Second winner gets 200,000 SSP, 10 winners get 20,000 SSP, and others get lots of MTN branded prizes.
Join MTN, the biggest family in South Sudan, and enjoy such amazing offers.
MTN, everywhere you go.
Thank you, Yara Jack. Let's begin with Nigeria, where gunmen are reported to have abducted an unknown number of passengers from a train in the northern Kaduna state. The gang mined the track between the capital, Abuja, and Kaduna City and forced the evening train to a halt. Many of the nearly 1,000 passengers on board took shelter as shots were fired. One man is reported to have been killed after the gunmen boarded the train. The security forces have now intervened and taken those injured to hospital. Elsewhere, Guinean military authorities have destroyed the private residence of former Prime Minister Diallo. The junta, which said it was targeting irregularly acquired state property and substandard buildings, ordered Mr. Diallo to leave the residence mid last month. The former Prime Minister contested the move, saying it was his private property, having bought it from the state in 2005. And finally, Ukraine hopes to be able to evacuate civilians from some towns and cities besieged by fighting today, Deputy Prime Minister says. This would include trying to establish a route out of the encircled port city of Mariupol, where 160,000 people remain trapped for private vehicles, according to Reuters. Yesterday, Ukraine warned some of the routes were unsafe because of potential attacks by Russian forces. That's all from the region and international scene. And back to you, Yarajak.
Thank you, Akile. And that international news was brought to you by MTN. And now my colleague John Leber joins us with the sports news.
Thank you, Yar. Welcome to Sports News. South Sudan Football Association will hold an important press conference this afternoon after the team returned home yesterday from Kampala. The press conference will reveal the South Sudan Football Association plan and way forward after the South Sudan senior national team has qualified to group stage of the African Cup of Nations 2023 after beating Djibouti 1-0 in Kampala in the second leg on Sunday. The Bright Stars won the home and away matches 5-2 on aggregate as they won the first leg 4-2 at Burj Al Arab Stadium in Alexandria, Egypt last week. In World Cup qualification, Cristiano Ronaldo says Portugal's World Cup playoff final with North Macedonia is a matter of life and death. North Macedonia, ranked 67th in the world, go to Porto looking to qualify for the World Cup for the first time, having stunned Italy 1-0 in the semis. This is likely to be Manchester United forward Ronaldo's last shot at a World Cup unless he plays on until he's 41. Portugal, who beat Turkey 3-1 in the semi-finals, last failed to reach a World Cup in 1998. Ronaldo is the all-time top scorer in men's international football with 115 goals, including 7 across 4 World Cups. He led his country to glory in Euro 2016, but this is likely to be his final chance to win a World Cup. Portugal coach Fernando Santos has hinted he will quit if they lose. In basketball, Russia's Daniil Medvedev is 2 wins away from regaining the men's world #1 spot after reaching the Miami Open last 16. The US Open champion secured a 6-3, 6-4 win over Spain's Pedro Martinez. Poland's Iga Swiatek, who will become women's world #1 after Ashik Bati's retirement, earned her 14th straight win by beating Coco Gauff. Japan's Naomi Osaka also reached the quarterfinals with victory against American Alison Risk. Last month, Medvedev ended Novak Djokovic's long run at the top of the rankings before the Serb moved back ahead. But with Djokovic absent in Miami, the 26-year-old Russian will take over again if he reaches the semifinals. Medvedev will next play American world number 39 Jason Brooksby, who beat Spain's Roberto Bautista Agut. British number 1 Cameron Norrie, seeded 10th, and the nation's final representative in the draw will face 6th seed Casper Ruud of Norway in the last 16 on Tuesday. And that was the end of Sports News with me, John Liberio, and back to my colleague, Yarajak.
Thank you, John Liberio, for that roundup of sports news. And now to end this news bulletin, here is a recap of the main headlines again. An activist is calling on President Salva Kiir to call for regular meetings of the presidency to discuss the speedy implementation of the revitalized peace agreement. The International Monetary Fund says it is satisfied with spending of its $225 million grant to the government of South Sudan. And traditional chiefs in Central Equatoria will now receive monthly salaries from the state government. That's the end of iRadio Afternoon News. You can also get these stories and updates by subscribing to iRadio News Alert on your MTN South Sudan number. Call 700 or *700# and follow the instructions. If there is a story or an event you would like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message on +211 912 986 986. It is also our WhatsApp number. Follow us on Twitter at iRadio Juba, like our Facebook page, iRadio South Sudan, and follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for the news in Arabic at 1:30. I am Yara Jack. Thank you for listening, and information brought to you by iRadio. The news in English will be coming from next week, the 1st of April. This week on Friday, the 1st of April, the news will be aired from 1 p.m. We shall be moving to a new time zone.